fight Margarito, Cotto, Plotty, fights that make sense for Shane.
Right. Now, when he faced Margarito, I had said in my show, I saw a guy that was 37 years old. But how about, though, really looking at it and kind of watching over and over, was this a motivated Shane Mosley walking in the ring against Margarito? Just because the fact that the Zab Judah fight fell apart, and just because the fact that he had been inactive for such some time already, you think he was really motivated for that bout?
I think that he was motivated, but also thought that he was trying to watch out for those wild, crazy punches. We train for those wild, crazy punches, and that's the only thing that I can see where people might think he wasn't motivated. Mm-hmm. He's just being cautious about how wild this guy was. He didn't want to get no headbutts or crazy punches on him, rabbit punches in the back of his head that could mess up your equilibrium. Mm-hmm. So he's just kind of cautious with that in the early goings until he kind of figured out what he needs to do with this guy. And throughout the fight, you had to be careful with him because mm-hmm. he was competitive and he was a strong guy. So you can't take those guys for granted. Right. Okay. He did knock out Vernon Forrest twice. So, he has power. And even though they're wild and crazy punches, you still got to watch out for them because you don't know what he's going to do. Yeah. And so it all paid off, though. The patience, and Shane finally got him in the end. But that second round, in the 12th round knockout with a second to go.
That was probably one of the greatest things in history.
That's right.
Everybody witnessed. Now, how do you rate that performance?
A plus.
A plus.
A plus. Knocked him out 1 second to go, and everybody went crazy.
Now let's say the last second knockout didn't happen. How would you rate his performance?
Well, that would probably be a B plus. Best knockout in the history of boxing. At one time, Shane had the best knockout percentage in the history of boxing. This is including Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Tyson, everybody. With 30 fights or more, he had the best knockout percentage in the history of boxing.
And that's when he was reigning at lightweight?
At lightweight.
Lightweight, 135.
Knocking everything out.
Now, what fighter you would have to say
and part of the welterweight, too.
Roy Jones Jr. versus Joe Calzaghe. Who wins and why?
I picked Roy. Roy's going to fight on my birthday, incidentally. So if Roy's watching this YouTube, get on your toes, stay on your toes. I don't mean run, but just be light on your feet, on your toes. Pop that jab, use lateral movement, which I know he will, and he's going to be busy. It'll be a little different Roy. I think Roy, he hasn't been using his jab in the past, but I think Roy will use his jab. Some tells me he'll use his jab a little more.
You know what? I think that's going to be a key there if he needs to use that jab.
Yeah. And be on his toes doing it, just like he did in the Olympics. The guy couldn't even touch him.
Right.
Frustrated the guy. Frustrate Calzaghe. He can't touch. You got good feet. You got good foot movement. And just use it. Use everything. Everything. Foot speed, hand speed, bobbing and weaving. Use everything you've ever learned in your whole life in boxing. From your father, from Murchison. Murchison really did a great job with Roy. But just learn, and just use everything you've learned, and you can beat this guy.
Now, he pulled back Murchison back in the training camp, and I thought that's a big plus for him. Having Murchison back in his corner, because the last couple of bouts he didn't have Murchison. He was using
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was using his dad for a while.
Murchison, I think, was there. He just had his dad out front.
But he was kind of silent in that bout. He wasn't the head trainer, I don't believe. I think he was the assistant. I may be wrong though. You never know.
Well, I remember his dad was there, a couple of times. But Murchison was there also. Mm-hmm. But I think just use everything you learned.
Right.
Get on your toes. Work your jab. Give him angles. The guy has fast hands. You give him that. Right. But your hands can't hit what it can't see.
We're talking about Joe Calzaghe.
Yeah, and Calzaghe can't hit Roy if he's moving.
Right.
See, he's got to dance to Roy's tune, and Roy can hit him when he wants. You got to dance to Roy's rhythm. Mm-hmm. See, if you dance to his rhythm, but you got to dance to Roy's rhythm, then Roy wins the fight.
There's some people saying that Calzaghe is about as fast as Roy. What do you think about that?
Well, he throws little bitty chopper punches. Roy throws long punches, long and fast punches, which is harder.
Right.
He hits harder. Calzaghe don't hit as hard as Roy.
Right.
I think Roy hit with the fast right hands that he can't get out of the way of. Calzaghe might find himself on the ground.
Yeah.
They don't give him a chance to win. I do.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So your prediction would unanimous decision or knockout?
It could go either way.
Either way.
Yeah, I'll go with the decision, but he could possibly knock Kawasaki out. He's never been knocked out. He's been knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
So he can get knocked down again.
You think he's motivated? I mean, majorly motivated for this fight?
I think Roy's real motivated. He got some things he can need to do in this boxing world to make history, and he's motivated.
I think he's motivated about that 45-0, being the first to give him that blemish.
That too.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
see
gonna
that.
put him right on top.
You know, it's funny. He was there when Bernard Hopkins faces Pavlik. You think that was an added motivation there too? Seeing that one of his counter foes there, one of his nemesis, did this great performance.
Well, the motivation that I think Roy needs is to motivate himself.
Mm-hmm.
He don't need motivation from anybody else.
Okay.
He already knows what he has to do.
Right.
See, so he already know himself. He don't need anybody to motivate him.
Right. Okay.
See, because you need somebody else to motivate you. That's kind of like a problem. Sometimes it helps.
Yeah.
But in my way of thinking, if I'm trying to do something, I got to motivate me. See, so I think he kind of like thinks the same way. He's got to motivate. He's going to motivate himself.
Right.
And focus himself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so now we got into the Bernard Hopkins, Pavlik. Bernard looked superb that night.
He did great.
You know, I actually had called the fight saying that my pick was not about skills. My pick was on age. I said,
Right.
Bernard, how many times can he do this? How many times can he upset? How many times can he walk away with a win? How do you grade his performance that night?
I think weight actually helps Bernard. I think when he actually went up in weight a little bit, because of his height and everything, it's actually good for him.
Mm-hmm.
To go down and strain yourself for all the nutrients and minerals and things that you need. It actually puts the hurting on your body. I mean, structure-wise or symmetry-wise. You know, he's 6'1", so that weight's good for him. But say if he was 5'9" or something, it wouldn't be good for him.
Right.
It'd be a lot of pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
But he could hold that weight, and this is why he was able to deal with Tarver the way he did. The weight was actually good for him because it's like an even kill. So when he went back up again, he feels good. He can retain all, you know, whatever he needs to win that fight.
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
Now, he kind of used the same roadmap he did for fighting Trinidad. Would you say?
But he didn't have to. He didn't have to lose any weight. Anything like Trinidad came up.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? And he's a much bigger guy than Trinidad. Trinidad's not as big as Bernard. It's like Oscar. They're not as big as Bernard.
Right.
So he's just kind of like too strong for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when Roy fought Trinidad. Just too big for him. Too
Right.
fast and too much for him. Nothing he could do with him. Winky right. Trinidad couldn't deal with him.
Now, if Roy wins the fight with Jones, I mean, yeah, if Jones wins the fight with Kawasaki, does it make a lot of sense for a rematch between those two?
Well, Roy says he tried to fight Bernard. Bernard signed to fight somebody else. So I guess Roy is not interested, you know, according to what he says. So, yeah, I don't know.
Oscar De La Hoya, right. Manny Pacquiao, mismatch, or is there something there that Roach sees?
Oscar should beat this guy. Oscar's got more experience, I believe. He's taller, stronger, and certainly his hand speed should match Pacquiao's hand speed, and foot speed should be about the same. Maybe a step slower, but he's just bigger. I don't see how Pacquiao can hurt him. Oscar's been in with some big guys.
Yeah, some big punchers too.
And big punchers. Been in it with my son Shane, who's a big puncher. Bernard, big puncher. Trinidad, a big puncher. He's been in with big punchers. I know Pacquiao's a big puncher, but in the lower weights.
Right.
So
Well, I think that's the big question: is how well and how hard is he going to hit at 147?
Yeah, it's not going to be. It'll be hard, but it's not going to be that hard.
Well, you know
But
what?
it would have hurt Oscar. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Now, what do you think happens? Let's say Oscar loses. What then? What does Oscar do now?
If Oscar loses to him, wow. Everybody's going to be on him for losing to little Pacquiao.
Yeah.
See, and then he has to make that decision himself.
Now, Pac-Man wins. What does he gain?
Everything. Fame, money, all that kind of stuff.
So, no, you know what? Okay, let's say he loses then. Pac loses. Does he lose anything?
Or is he expected to lose? No, he don't lose nothing.
Right.
He's expected to lose.
Oscar wins, big deal,
He
right?
beat a little guy, and it won a lot of money.